Hey everyone, it's Mari. I'm back again today with another project for the Vicki Boutin design team. I'm starting off here with a piece of the foundations paper from Vicki Boutin on my desk, and I'm going to be using a couple of the different colors of art crayons. I'm going to be using one of the darker blue and one of the black crayon, and you'll just see me here. I'm going to scribble that out on a piece of heavy packaging. This is actually the packaging that comes with the art crayons, I believe, and I'm going to scribble that really pretty. You can just see this gorgeous tone of blue. I'm going to scribble that out there, and then I'll get a separate piece of packaging here, or acetate, to scribble out the black. I just wanted a separate piece for each of these colors just because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to mix something with them, etc. So that's what I'm doing here. I just really wanted to have kind of like this bit of really deep, rich color here with this black and this kind of navy color. And I am going to show you the color inspiration for my project today here in a minute. As I'm just kind of like getting organized, I'm going to get some paper towel and my water spritzer and everything that I need just to make sure that I have all the things ready that I might want to use. You can see that I've got some paint brushes on my table there. You can just see that at the top above where I have those art crayons scribbled out there. Just going to get everything all ready to go so that when I need things, they will be there. Now I am going to show you here. This is the photo that I'm going to be scrapbooking today. Just an adorable, sweet little black and white photo. Here you're just going to see me using my Tim Holtz decal edge trimmer to trim off the excess paper off my photo here. Totally love this trimmer. I think it's so cool. And when I show you here how interesting this makes the edge of your photo look, it's just unbelievable. And I feel like this trimmer is mostly sold out right now. I will link up to it in the description box down below. And you can, at scrapbook.com, you can actually click the notify me button and they'll let you know when it is back in stock. But love this photo. I think I actually ended up printing this again a little bit smaller. But I do end up with a size right around the 3x4, and it is in black and white. Now, I actually did use a filter on this in Lightroom and just love this little photo. Now, I am going to be using one of the 3x4 cards from the 3x4 cut apart sheet from Storyteller. I think this paper is actually called Storyteller, and the inspiration for the layout really is this daisy paper. It's my favorite paper from the collection. I absolutely love it, and I love that tone of blue that's in the cloud paper and in the background of the daisy paper. And I also really love this text paper. So I was looking at those and considering using all of them in this layout, and definitely decided that those daisies were going to go on this layout for sure. So I'm just going to water down my crayon just to get that pigment nice and liquefied so that I can go ahead and use it on my project here. And I'm going to take some of the green crayon as well and mix it in with that blue a little bit just to get some of that green tone going that you saw kind of like in that cloud paper, etc. Like just to make the color a little bit different rather than just that solid blue, and mix in more of that green there just to get a little bit of a mix of the blue and green together. And I just love the color that this creates, and I love I just love the color that it creates on the background here for the base for my layout. So now I'm just going to go to my foundations paper. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it, not too much, just a little bit, just to get the pigment moving on the paper. So you'll just see me here. I'm going to go in first of all with the brush and kind of just create the shape that I'm thinking about wanting for where I'm going to want my items to go. So, like I'm using those 2 3x4 squares for the layout, and I knew that I wanted to offset them a little bit. So I'm kind of making a wide section in the center to put those two pieces. And then I'm kind of elongating it in the center to sort of make a line through the center, and then it gets skinny on the ends. And that's where some of my daisy embellishments are going to go here. So that's what I was thinking. And you saw me there. I just kind of tapped some of the pigment in with my finger, and now I'm just going in and splattering some of the pigment around the layout as well with a couple of the different round brushes. And now I'm just going to take that plastic that's got the pigment on it, and I'm just going to let it run onto my layout, drip onto the layout, and then I'm just going to go ahead and just tap the pigment around with that plastic. So you're just going to see me moving it around in that way, and I'm going to keep adding some splatters and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to keep going. And if you've never used the crayons before, they're so easy to use and they're so much fun. And there's so many ways to mix them to create your own unique color and tones. So really, the sky's the limit with what you can do for the colors here. Now, I'm taking the black. I've activated that now. I've got some water in it. And I just wanted to add some splatters of black around my layout. And I'm going to let that, it's actually going to, I'm going to push it over to the side when I'm done splattering it with it here, and I'm going to it's going to dry out, but I'll reactivate it later, and I'll use it at the very end to put some more black splatters on my project. So I really love how this is looking, and now I want to take some dry black crayon, and I've mixed it with a little bit of the green, and here I'm going to dry brush it on with my stencil. So I have my dry stencil brush there, and I'm picking up kind of like a mix of green and black, and I'm going to put it through that really gorgeous stencil from Storyteller. It kind of looks to me like swirls or roses or something, but it's just really cool. I love it. And I'm just going to add a little bit more depth and interest to my project by adding in that black and a little bit of green. Like I said, I'm going to mix those together here. You can just see that I've still got that green on my brush, and I'm just going to mix in a little bit of black as well. And I'm just going to go over, and it doesn't have to be in the same spot. Obviously, they can, overlap. But I knew, like I said before, that I wanted those two square pieces to kind of be opposite each other on the layout. So that's why I'm kind of trying to develop my details in those areas. And now I'm just taking some texture paste or molding paste, whatever you have in your stash. This is just some white paste. And I'm just going to go ahead and take that circle stencil that's from Storyteller as well. And I'm going to add 3 different little areas of that molding paste with that stencil. And I just really like how that adds some really cool texture. Now I'm taking some white acrylic paint, and I'm going to water that down. I'm going to go ahead, and this is actually pretty thick, but I'm okay with that because I want these little splatters to be quite thick and textural on my layout. So I'm going to go ahead and water some of that down, and then I'm going to splatter that on. And actually, what's really cool about adding the acrylic paint in this way is that it's shiny. It's going to be shiny on there because it's basically plastic, right? And you could actually water down some of Vicki's creative effects and do this as well if you wanted to add like the iridescent, or you could add a little bit of silver in this way. And if you still have some of Vicki's acrylic paints in your stash, you could do that as well, because her acrylic paints were like the full rainbow of colors, and then there was the gunmetal and gold, I believe, and so on. So you could just water those down and add some cool splatters. Now I'm just showing you here, I did size down my photo. I thought I had, but I couldn't remember for sure, but this is a smaller photo, and I just wanted the actual photo to be a true 3x4. So the actual photo itself is a little bit smaller than that, but I wanted to leave a little bit of a white border on it so that it actually, with the white borders, 3x4. And then of course the this journaling card, or the 4x3 cut apart, is also 4x3, but I'm going to cut the bottom of it off, so it's going to be probably a little bit smaller than that. But I wanted to use the decal trimmer so that the edge matches the photo. And this is basically mostly going to be my title for the layout, this one-of-a-kind card. And I really love using 4x3 cut apart cards for a title. I think it's a cool way of incorporating your title into your layout. Now, I just wanted to keep these kind of like at an angle somewhat to each other, one higher than the other. And now what I'm going to do is take the 8x6 daisy paper and the 12x12 daisy paper, and I'm going to fussy cut a bunch of pieces from those 2 pieces of paper. So I'm going to have some really interesting sizes of daisies. I'll have the smaller scale from the 8x6 paper pad, and then the larger scale ones from the 12x12. Now these are some ephemera die cut pieces from the ephemera packs from Storyteller, and this is a 6x8 piece of paper. That paper is called Quill in the 12x12 paper, but I wanted to use some of it in the 8x6 for the smaller scale for my mats, my photo mats, and also then I'm going to use the larger scale, the 12x12 quill, a little bit later in the layout. I really like the torn edge, and I am going to distress the edges of this paper just because I like that look. I think it just makes it look more interesting. I am going to add layers to my photo mat and to the cut apart card there with some foam adhesive, and just really going to add some texture to these as well with my distressing tool here. And so you'll just see me going through that process and just having a lot of fun with creating my layers in my photo mat. And I'm going to add lots of layers with craft foam, and I'm also going to use foam squares throughout the process to add that dimension to my project. So there's some craft foam. I just sized that down for the back of my photo here, using some really sticky tape runner to stick that to the first layer of my photo mat here. And then I love how that frame just layers in behind. I'm going to use my stapler here in this process to help me get these put together. Gosh, I really love a little library card, a piece of ephemera, and Vicki's got a bunch of those in the die cut packs for Storyteller. Absolutely love those. I think those are genius and so much fun, and definitely on trend. You see those in a few collections, and I think that they're just a really, really cool embellishment. So love those, and I wanted to use one in the layers of my photo here. So there's that library card. I love how it's just kind of like an icy blue, and that matches nicely with the art crayon color that I used behind my project, or for the base of my project here. So just going to see me trying to add, thought I wanted to add this little ticket here, but I think I add it to the other, to the cut apart card, I believe, in that instead, possibly. I don't add it to this one for sure, but love that. I think that's just a really cool die cut piece, really neat piece of ephemera for sure. So, and there's that cut apart card there. So I'm just getting that another piece of craft foam here for the back of my cut apart, and I'm going to go ahead now and start to layer up some different layers behind that. And I'm basically going to use exactly the same process that I used for the photo. So I'm going to go ahead back to that black patterned paper, which, like I said earlier, that's called Quill. And that paper is in the 8x6 paper pad and in, of course, a 12x12. Love that. I think it's so interesting, so cool. I love the white, gray, black on that paper. The pattern is really, really interesting. So definitely wanted to get that in here on this layout, since I was going with the contrasting black on that background with the blue, and I love the colors that are in that cut apart sheet. I think it's so cool. And I love, of course, the sentiment, one of a kind, is beautiful. I'm going to be journaling about the weather a little bit here in the story that was going on with this photo. But of course, one of a kind also refers to this sweet little girl that's in the picture. Now, I did trim just a little piece of that ticket off, and I'm just going to have it kind of sticking out the top. I did distress that. And now I'm just going to get these just in place and stuck down, not permanently. I'm actually going to use some archival liquid adhesive on the backs of those pieces later, just because on mixed media, it's important to use a really good strong adhesive. I don't think that tape runner is going to do it. As far as longevity is concerned, I'll need that archival liquid adhesive. Now here you can see all of these fussy cut daisies, and I'm just going to try to get those placed where I want them before I stick them down. But I also wanted to use that really sweet little bird at the top too. I wanted it to kind of just be perched on the top of that cut apart. And you can see here for the daisies, I've got some that aren't a complete flower. And what's really great about those is you can use them to tuck in behind your photo or the edge of something else, so that just the part that's full can be used there. This is the songbird paper I just showed you briefly there. I fussy cut leaves out of that songbird paper. The leaf die cut ephemera pieces I just felt like were a little bit too large of a scale for what I was going for here. And so the great thing about these papers, and there's a ton of them in Storyteller, is you can find so many things to fussy cut that are perfect embellishments if you just need something a little bit different. And so love that. Now I just want to talk about this so far and say that I could be done right now I wouldn't have to add anything else. And if you really like that white edge all the way around, then you could leave this like that. And if I was going to do that, I'm just showing you here, I'm going to use some foam adhesive to pop up some of these leaves. If I was going to do that, if I was going to leave that white edge all the way around, I'd probably put another little leaf cluster in somewhere, because right now there's 4, which, I mean, you know, supposedly you should really have an odd number, right? And it kind of does look weird with just those 4. So if I was going to leave this plain like this, I probably would have added more of that foliage, but I wanted to add some paper tearing to the edges. So I'm ripping a piece of that quill paper in the 12 by 12, and I'm going to put a piece on the left and a tiny little piece on the right. So now you can see that it's a lot more, the green leaves look better the way that they are with the 4 when I put this torn paper on here. And I'm going to put a tiny little bit of the daisy paper in some of the little areas there as well, just to get that in there as well. Love how this looks. I love torn paper. You probably know that about me. I don't use it on every layout, but I do really like it. I just love the texture that it adds. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew along this. So here I'm just showing you, you could totally leave this white. It's beautiful with the white edge. You don't need that patterned paper on the edge for sure. But like I said, I just like that. And I like the contrast of that black. I think it's just super, super cool. So here you can just see I'm going to just ruffle up the edges of that paper a little bit. And I have just used a little bit of tape runner to stick that down. And now I'm just going to get it placed, and then I will take that to my sewing machine and I'll show you what that looks like when it's all finished. But if you are noticing that my voiceover is a little bit choppy today, I've been having so much trouble with my computer. I don't know, I'm just having some issues. So sorry about that if that's annoying to you. Hopefully it's not. Now here you can see there's a little transition and I'll show you the sewing. Now I did 2 passes on the left, really messy, and 1 pass on the right on that lower portion, just nice and clean and straight, just to make it look different. Now this is from the sticker book that you can get as part of the collection, and it is so full of wonderful stickers. I love it. Now I added one of the half circle stickers to the left of the photo, and then I'm also going to add one to the bottom of the cut apart card, and that's just going to say noted at the bottom of the cut apart card, which is where I'm going to add the journaling here. And I'm just going to add some journaling strips, really, really simple, to this layout here. So I'm making a series of layouts for my niece. This is my niece's little girl. And so sometimes you'll see journaling on these layouts where I'm working on her photos. Sometimes you won't, because I'll leave it for her to do. But I did actually do some journaling on this layout. Now these are some little chipboard, black chipboard with gold foil hearts. I love those. They're perfect. The perfect tiny little embellishment for finishing off this layout. I only created 3 journaling strips here. I cut them with my Caterpillar crop cutter, because it's really, really easy to see where you're cutting. When you use the little light on it, it's really easy to make uniform size strips. I also used my T-square ruler here to make sure that these are semi-straight. They're not perfect, but that's okay, because this is not a super linear layout, so I wasn't too worried about it. So I'm just going to use my liquid adhesive to get those glued down. And I am actually going to add some of those gorgeous chipboard thickers called decoupage that are part of Storyteller. I absolutely love them, and you'll see that here in just a little minute. So I'm really loving how this layout's looking. I think it's really pretty. Here you can just see I added those 2 little, I moved that 1 little circle chipboard heart to the bottom there, and there's that other little sticker at the bottom of the cut apart, and there's my journaling, and then there's those 2 little alphas from the decoupage thickers from Storyteller. Love these. They're gorgeous. And you can kind of see a little bit of text on them. They're just beautifully designed. I love them. So the BC actually stands for British Columbia, and the journaling is just a little bit about the weather and how it's been transitioning there and so on. So all I have left to do here is some black splatters. I just felt like these black splatters were just the perfect little bit of detail here. So I just reactivated that black crayon that was on that piece of plastic over to the side there. And I'm just adding that really fine little black splatter in a few places here. I do have my photo covered and my journaling just because I didn't want to get any of the black splatters on those elements. This is going to be it for my project today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Please make sure you check the links in the description box below to find a link to the blog post, the Vicki Boutin blog, as well as links to all of the products that I used today if you're interested in purchasing any of these products. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you next week for another Vicki Boutin project here on YouTube. Bye-bye.